Hi, everybody. It's Alex here for Economics 1010, and I've got the first lesson for today. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've got this bit of an agenda. So what I'm going to try to do today is to create three files that I can upload in Moodle, and I'm going to have one file for the agenda and one one file for chapters 1 and one file for chapter 2. And what I'm going to try to do is put these things in YouTube videos, but I'm not absolutely sure this is going to work. I know it'll work for the agenda file because that'll be fairly small. It might work okay for the chapter 1 because it's not too big, but I'm not absolutely sure about the third file for chapter 3. Sorry, for chapter 2. So I might have to do the chapter recordings in Collaborate, and then I'll post those links to Moodle as well. Anyways, we'll figure it out. Anyways, I just realized, I got all this stuff ready, and I just went to check something, and something screwed up already. I mean, it's the very first, not in the first day yet, and things are already screwed up. Anyways, we'll just have to kind of work through some of the stuff. One thing you'll learn if you don't know this already is that the technology we use and some of the operators of the technology are not necessarily perfect, and there are screw-ups, there are hiccups, there are glitches on a not infrequent basis. So don't be surprised if something just doesn't work sometime, and we'll just have to find a way around it. Okay, so first off, I'm going to go through the agenda for this week's session. So this is Economics 1010. This is the asynchronous version, and so really we don't have any classes scheduled on the clock on the calendar. So we don't have any particular days that you'll be doing this. So I'm just going to call this week 1, first week of September. Okay, so some things that I just wanted to go over with you a bit is some of you may have heard this already. If Northern Lakes College and Portage College jointly enter a team in a business case competition once a year, the competition is held in March, and next year, 2016, it'll be in Calgary. I believe it's at SAIT. And the schools, Northern Lakes and Portage, we're recruiting students to serve in this team. The team has 5 student members. There's 2 instructors, one from Portage and one from NLC, and I'm the one from NLC. And if you're interested in hearing more about this or finding out more about it, I was going to show you where to go, and of course I can't find it. Just a sec. Where is it? Sec. Oh my goodness. I don't know if this. Oh, okay. This is going to work. So if you want to find out more about this, you can go to Moodle at NLC. If you're log in, and we'll talk about this later on. But I just want to give you a heads up now. Oops, because it's next spring. And the deadline for applying is probably around Thanksgiving in the fall, and then we have some practice sessions over the winter time with the Portage students. Okay, so to find out some information about this, you can go to the Business Administration homepage, which you should all have access to. And if you kind of scroll down to section topic number 4, there's an application form. Here, if I log in, it won't allow me to log in because I'm not a student. But anyways, there's a bit of a questionnaire there that describes a little bit about the competition, what the requirements are, and if you click at the bottom, you can submit an expression of interest, and we'll follow up with you about that later on. Anyways, there's one place to get a bit of information about it, and we'll come back to that later on in the year. So I want to get out of there. Oh my goodness. I'm going to minimize that. Okay, so let's just go back to my agenda. Anyways, okay, so another little reminder here is on October the 1st, Thursday, October the 1st, you have no classes at NLC because that's Northern Lakes College's business department's professional development day for students. So on that day, students come to Slave Lake here, and there's some seminars and workshops and that kind of stuff. I don't have the agenda quite yet, but this is a good opportunity for students to meet each other. So it is advantageous for students to attend this. We know that not all students can attend because, as we know, Northern Lakes territory is quite large, and it can be difficult for people to travel, and people have other commitments. But anyways, it is a good opportunity for people to get together and meet each other. It's one of the few times of the year that students get a chance to meet each other face to face. We have another one of these PD days next spring, also in March, but we'll talk about that later on. Okay, so for this book, this is an asynchronous course, and this course has many assignments and has weekly assignments and some quizzes that need to be done on the publisher's website. So here's the information that you need to plug into the publisher's website to kind of register your book and register for the course. So the course name is Econ 1010 space 15 space 16 space T1, capital T. I believe it's all case sensitive. And the course ID is my surname, TETT 92204. Anyways, this information is also in the top part of Moodle in the class. So I'll come back to this in a minute. I've just discovered that the assignments that you need to do on the publisher's website, they're not. I had them set up, and I have screenshots of all the stuff I had set up, because the screenshots that I have for this, I have loaded in Moodle to give you directions on how to get to these things. But when I checked today, they're not there. And what I realized, the publisher updated their website in the summertime, and I didn't know that until about 2 days ago, and they must have deleted all these assignments. So I'm going to have to go back in and upload them, or set them up, I should say. It's going to take me some time to do that, but anyways, I'll get it done, and you'll be able to do these things. Okay, next little thing about the course schedule. Well, you know. So you have a copy of the course schedule in Moodle up at the top of Moodle, and what I do in my class is I reduce the course schedule to a single page, and that's really what this is here. All it is it's just a calendar, week 1, week 2, week 3, all the way up to week 15, and we have a bunch of assignments. We have these weekly online assignments, chapter assignments. Then there's some quizzes. So there's one of these assignments for every chapter, and we'll come back to this in just a minute. But anyways, there's some quizzes, there's a PowerPoint presentation. So all these assignments, the weekly assignments are worth 20% of the final mark. The 4 quizzes are 5% apiece, they're worth 20% of the final mark. There's a PowerPoint presentation due in the second last week of the course, that's worth 10%. And then there's a midterm exam and a final exam, each worth 25%. Anyways, there's the calendar. You'll want to, so this is the same schedule that's in the course outline posted at the top of Moodle, so you'll want to print it off and put it in your own calendar somehow. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is and give you an overview of the assignments in this class. How do you get marks in this class? So, how do you get marks in this class, in this course? So, we have these chapter assignments. There's one assignment for every chapter. There are 4 quizzes. There's a PowerPoint assignment. There's a midterm. And there's a final. So, and this is what I was going to show you, but just a second here, I think. Okay, let me just explain something first, and then I'm going to show you what these, how to get to these assignments I'll go into another course and show you how to do it, and then I'll have to go back into this course on the publisher's website and recreate these assignments, but you'll kind of see how to get there. Anyways, an overview. So in this course, we do 15 chapters in the book. There are 16 chapters in the book. We only do the first 15. When you go to the publisher's website every week, there are some questions that you have to do every week, and then at the end of each little chapter, you have to do some some so-called quiz-mes. So each chapter consists of a number of parts. So let's say we have chapter 1, and there's part A, part B, part C, and part D, and each one of these little parts has a quiz-me at the end of it. You have to do all 4 of these quiz-mes because these quiz-mes are what generate your weekly marks. Anyways, they generate your weekly marks. Okay, so there's 15 chapters, so there's 15 of these chapter assignments on the publisher's website. The quiz-me marks are worth a total of 1.33% each of the final mark. So 15 times 1.33 equals 20% of the final mark. You have to do it on the publisher's website. And here's some instructions that I've posted in Moodle on how to navigate the publisher's website. And I'll try to demonstrate that in just a minute here, but unfortunately, all the assignments have been wiped out on your website, but I'll show it to you for another course, and you'll kind of get the feel of it. Okay, so likewise, there are 4 quizzes in the course, and each quiz kind of corresponds to several chapters, and each part of the quiz corresponds to 1 chapter. So since there's 4 quizzes, there's between 3 and 5 parts for each one. There's 4 of them, there was 5% each, so that's 20% of the final mark. You also have to do those on the publisher's website, just like these chapter assignments. And you know what some students do, so these quizzes have deadlines, and again, you'll have to go back to the course outline to find out the deadlines for the particular assignment. So quiz number 1 is due, oh, I don't have it there. Anyways, it's due by Sunday, September 27th. That one's due September 27th. Number 2 is due on by Sunday, October 18th. Sunday, October 18th. Number 3, November 8th. They're all due on Sundays. And the final one is due November 29th. Anyways, you'll find out those dates later on. So what some students do is they do the part for the quiz at the same time they do this chapter part. So in the first week here, you're going to be doing chapters 1 and chapter 2. So what some students do is they do the quiz parts for chapter 1 and chapter 2 at the same time, instead of in the same week. So instead of waiting and doing the quiz all at one time on the deadline date, you can do the parts at any time up until the deadline. Anyways, that's what some students do. So I'm going to try to show you how to get to the publisher's website and to see these, how to get in to do the quiz-mes and the quizzes. And so I'm going to try to show you that. Unfortunately, I have to go into another course, but that's okay because it's similar. Okay, so, okay, oops, it's not showing up. Something, oh, maybe it is. Sorry, it is. Okay, so this book you're using is a Pearson book. So you go to the Pearson Canada website, or just follow the directions in your book. Okay, you have to log in. Okay. So this is, okay, so this is 1010. So my display on the screen might look a little bit different from yours because I'm the instructor and I have different access rights. Anyways, yours will look quite similar to mine. So if you want to do your weekly chapter questions and the quiz-me, there are several ways to navigate around the website, but the way I sort of I'm going to show you is you go to chapter resources down here, and then let's say you want to start at chapter 1, so you start at chapter 1, and then up at the top here it says go to chapter study plan, so click there. And we're in chapter 1, so you can see these parts. Chapter 1, the nature of economics, scarcity, defining economics, rational decision making, scientific method, da 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 da. So you want to do all the questions and all the QuizMe parts for each one of these little sections that get displayed. So here's scarcity, so you go in and do question number 1. So these are the practice questions. So these are all they're all multiple choice. I shouldn't say they're all multiple choice. There might be some little graphing questions as well. Anyways, so does the richest person in the world face a problem with scarcity? No, yes. Answer is D. I'm not going to read these things. Check answer. Oh, I should be able to go on to the next one. Oh, there's question number 2. Da 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 da. And then you can check your answer. You close. And then once you've done all those practice questions, you want to do the little QuizMe. And so the QuizMe is up in the top right-hand corner. And all these QuizMes, they only have 5 questions apiece. So I can start. So the QuizMes are quite short. Oh, it's on question 3, because I already started some of these things before. They're quite short. Yes, look at the page. Okay, so that's how you do the chapter questions and the chapter QuizMes for each chapter. And then to do the, so that actually worked. Okay, so that worked. Oh, that worked. That's very good. So I was going to show you where the, quizzes are. So the QuizMes work. Oh, that's good. That's good. QuizMes work. That's good. Only the quizzes are missing. So normally to go to the quizzes, you'd go to assignment, and there'd be some, but there's no quizzes there. These are not the right quizzes. So actually, I did the wrong thing. I was going to show you another course. So I'm going to go back in. So I'm going to show you how this thing is set up in Macro, because there's a Macro course this term. Same publisher, similar book, similar design. So again, if I wanted to do the weekly chapter questions and QuizMes, I would go to chapter resources, I'm going to go to chapter 5, chapter study plan. Here's the sections for chapter 5, economic activity. Click there, do the questions, do the little QuizMe. And then when I want to do the quiz part, when I want to do the quiz part, I would go back and I would go to assignments, and then quizzes. I'm going to go to chapter, make it easier. Oh, sorry, it actually starts in chapter 4, sorry. I'm going to go to chapter 5, go chapter 5, and then you can see study plan for quiz 1 part B, quiz 1 part B. So in Macro course, the course starts in chapter 4. Part A is chapter 4, and part B is chapter 5. Anyway, so I click here. Yeah, I want to go in and do the quiz. Oh, I think there was a warning there. I think the warning says you have to have done the study plan materials already. So the weekly QuizMes, and I haven't done that. Anyways, so once I get this site set up properly for Micro, I need to put the quizzes back in. The QuizMes are still there. That's actually good news for me, because it's less work. Okay, so just continuing on with the introduction for today. So the agenda for today. Okay, so still continuing on with the assignments for this course. So we've seen the weekly chapter assignments. We've seen these 4 quizzes. Both these get done on the publisher's website. Okay, in the second last week of the course, you have to do a PowerPoint presentation. So students, you can either do it on your own, or you can get into groups of up to 3 students. You select your own groups if you want to do it in a group. That's fine. And you'll analyze some contemporary economic phenomena from the perspective of microeconomics. And the way you'll do this is either we'll have a live class that you can either present this in. We'll probably do a class maybe on a Thursday afternoon and maybe on a Thursday evening. It can't be Tuesday because I have another class on Tuesday evening. And you can either present it live in class, or if you prefer instead, you can record your presentation on PowerPoint. And there's a way to record voices on PowerPoint, and we have some instructions on how to do that. I think it's in the course outline for the course, but if you have any questions, we can figure it out. It's not very hard. In fact, in your computer course this fall, I think Susan's your instructor. You might even ask her if she knows how to do these things. If not, you just go to YouTube and see a little video, and it's quite simple actually. But anyways, okay, and then what topics are you going to pick? Well, I have some suggested topics in Moodle, and you can either pick one of those topics or you can pick one of your own. But if you want to pick one of your own, you should bounce it off me first, because we want to make sure you pick a microeconomics topic, not macro, not behavioral, but micro. Anyway, so bounce it off me if you want to do something different. And that presentation is worth 10% of your final mark. Okay, then the two final ways to get marks on the course are through the midterm exam and one's on the final. So this is an asynchronous course, so I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work because you don't have a set class time, and so I don't know what the set exam time is going to be. So I'm thinking that maybe what we'll do is maybe we'll have 2 time slots that day. So it's going to be on Thursday, October 15th. It's 2 hours long. Maybe we'll have a time slot in the afternoon between 1:30 and 3:30, and maybe we'll have an evening time slot between 6 and 8 for people who work during the day. So in order to do the midterm, you must go to campus. It's a proctored exam, so you have to do it on campus. The exam is in Moodle. It's closed book, so no cheating. And it covers chapters 1 to 8, and the midterm is comprised of 65 multiple choice questions, and the midterm is worth 25% of the final mark. So for the final exam, the time has already been set. So the date has been set, Thursday, December the 10th. You have 3 hours to do it. The official exam is from 9:30 to 12:30 in the morning. I usually let students get in early because, anyway, I won't tell you why at this time, but I usually let students get into exams early. There's some possible technical problems with Moodle anyway, so that's why I do this. Anyways, so again, it's like the midterm. You must do it on campus. It's also in Moodle. It's closed book. It covers the entire course, chapters 1 to 15, and it's comprised of 60 multiple choice questions. And again, it's worth 25% of the final mark. So that's an overview of the assessments in the assignments in this class. And again, if you have any questions, you can either email me, or I think there's a little forum section in the course Moodle where you can post questions so all students can see, and I'll endeavor to answer your questions so everybody can see the answers. Okay, so that was my next little part there. Overview of the assignments for the class. Okay, so we're starting to roll into this class. This is the first week, last week of August, first week of September. Your first chapter assignments for chapter 1 and chapter 2, they're due next Sunday. So Sunday, December the 6th. They're due by 11:59 p.m., so 1 minute before midnight, and that is Mountain Standard Time. The publisher's website is in Toronto, but it's set up to work on Alberta time. So you can do these assignments right now. I just have to fix the quiz part. So I'm gonna have to try to do that later today or tomorrow. So I'm going to bring to your attention that there are 5 chapters in the book that have appendices. But for our purposes, we only have to do the appendices for 2 chapters. That's chapter 1 and chapter 2. The appendix in chapter 1 deals with graphing conventions. We use lots and lots of graphs in economics in both micro and macro. And so you want to make sure that you're on the same wavelength as far as graphing conventions are concerned. So just review the appendix of chapter 1. I think it's called appendix number A. And then likewise in chapter number 2, there's an appendix that deals with comparative advantage. And it's a comparative advantage. It's a key concept of economics. And so again, just so you can get up to speed with everyone else in the world of economics, we want to do Appendix B in Chapter 2. And you need to do these two appendices for the weekly questions and the weekly quiz meets, and then the quizzes, of course, as well. Okay, so that's just a reminder that your first assignments are due next Monday. And the way these courses go, at least the way this course goes, there's an assignment due every week. And all these chapter assignments are due on Sunday evening at 11:59 p.m. And for those of you who are taking business math this term, it's the same deadline. For my, geez, I have rules and exceptions. But anyways, in math class, there's also weekly assignments, and the deadlines for completing the publisher assignments, or the assignments on the publisher website in math class, are also Sunday evening at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That publisher is also back in Ontario, but we're using Alberta time. Okay, so we're just winding up the agenda here. So, one thing I know, I suspect for most of you, this will be your first course in economics. I suspect that some of you have taken a course in economics maybe in high school, but probably not all of you. And so if there's one thing that people tend to know about economics is that, and if you don't know anything else, you might just know that economics has been called the dismal science. And there's kind of a true historical explanation of why it's called the dismal science, and then there's some other reasons why it's called the dismal science. And I thought I would try to explain this to you, and it's not what you think. So why is economics called the dismal science? So there's kind of a modern reason why people think of economics as the dismal science, and the modern reason is some people, not everybody, but some people think that economics is boring, and they also think that economics is very depressing, because what we deal with, particularly in macroeconomics, we deal with a lot of subjects which can be inherently depressing. Because in macro, we deal with things like economic recessions, economic depressions, we deal with unemployment, we deal with inflation, we deal with poverty, and those are all kind of bummer kind of subjects. And so some people think that that's kind of boring, and therefore economics is a dismal science because it deals with all these depressing kind of topics. That's the modern explanation, but that's not the correct historical explanation. So the correct historical explanation, it relates to slavery, which of course we don't have slavery in Canada, and in the modern world, slavery is very, very rare. There are a few instances of slavery in the world today. We sometimes hear about sex slaves in some parts of the world, and sometimes we hear about child slavery in certain parts of the world. But by and large, in the modern world, slavery is very, very rare. However, slavery has been part of the economies of many, many countries for the most part of mankind. So if any of you are interested in the world of ancient Greece, if you go back in time a couple thousand years, and we had, famous to the time of Alexander the Great, for example, that's about 2,400 years ago, to the time of some of the famous ancient Greek philosophers, Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, and folks like that, slavery was part of their economies. It was just part of society. And slavery has actually been part of the Western world for most of our civilization. And anyways, the reason economics is called the dismal science, it comes from a Scottish fellow in 1749. And we'll get to this in a minute. Anyways, he's from Scotland. So Scotland was part of the British Empire. And the institution of slavery was around in England since the time of the Romans. The Romans conquered Britain between 55 BC to 410 AD, so over 2,000 years ago. And there was slavery in England before the Romans came. Anyways, when the British Empire was expanding in the 17th and 18th century, Canada was one of the colonies of Britain. The United States was one of the colonies of Britain. Australia was one of the colonies of Britain. India was one of the colonies of Britain. There's a bunch of countries in the Caribbean and Africa that were also part of the British Empire. So when the British Empire was kind of at its peak in the 17th and 18th century, the British used lots of slaves that came from Africa. So that's kind of when modern slavery sort of came into practice. And so slaves were used for plantations in North and South America and in the Caribbean. And the institution of slavery arrived in the New World in 1526. And it started with the Portuguese bringing slaves over. I don't know which country they brought them to. It could have been Brazil, but it could have been in the Caribbean. I don't know. And the first slave ship arrived in the United States. In 1619. And so way back then, of course, the United States was still a colony of Britain. So then in England, slavery was abolished in let me just check this, oh my goodness, this is 1833. Slavery was abolished in England, in the British Empire. And then it was abolished, I think I have a mistake. Oh yeah, and then it was abolished in the United States in 1865. So what's the point? Point's this. So slavery was abolished in England in the British Empire, so that includes Canada. There was a little bit of slavery in Canada. Slavery was abolished in the British Empire in 1833. Oh, and I made a mistake here. This is 1849. So in the year 1849, there was a Scottish writer by the name of Thomas Carlyle. And Carlyle saw that there was some unemployment in the West Indies, so in the Caribbean, West Indies. He saw that there was some unemployment of black people in the West Indies, and this was in 1849. And so Carlyle said, geez, what we want to do, what England wants to do is it wants to reintroduce slavery. It wants to re-adopt slavery to put these unemployed people back to work. And Carlyle was looking for some justifications for the readoption of slavery. And when he looked at economics, he said, I can find no justification for slavery in economics, because in economics, as you will learn very, very shortly here, resource allocations in economics are determined by supply and demand. And he says, look, in economics, the employment of people is determined by supply and demand, not by the institution of slavery. And so Carlyle said, geez, this field of economics, it's kind of a useless science, because we cannot justify slavery on the basis of economics. Supply and demand rules in economics, not slavery. And so Carlyle said, this is kind of a dumb subject, economics, and therefore he called economics the dismal science, because it would not justify slavery. Anyways, that's the reason economics was first called the dismal science by Thomas Carlyle in 1849, because it could not justify slavery. Anyways, that's an aside. Anyways, okay, so next little section here, we're almost finished this agenda. So there's two quirks of economics that I want to bring to your attention. You try to make stuff easy to understand, but of course, economics is a distinct discipline, and they do a couple things that are different than everybody else does. So I want to bring these to your attention just to kind of give you a heads up, because intuitively you might find them a little bit counterintuitive. So normally, one quirk of economics is the way they graph things, or the way we're going to see many of our graphs. So normally when we draw a graph, here's a little graph. We have the y-axis over here. We have the x-axis on the bottom. And normally when we draw a graph, the x-axis equals the so-called independent variable, I have bad handwriting. And the y-axis is known as the dependent variable. And what this usually means is, when you're analyzing things, normally, the independent variable, it means the cause. And the y-axis, or the dependent variable, is the effect. So normally when you want to study causal relationships, you play around with the independent variable, and then you see what the effect is on the y-axis. That's the way we normally do things. However, in economics, they do things exactly backwards. They use, economics puts the effect on the bottom and the cause on the side. And it's a little bit counterintuitive to the way we normally do graphing. So let me just show you an example of how we normally do things. So this is the way we normally do things. Here's a graph of volume of water and production of cereals, production of grain or wheat. So we increase the amount of water that we use, and as the more water we put on our crops, the output increases in kilograms per hectare. This is normal. This is y, this is the effect, and this is x, this is the cause. But in many of the graphs that we use in this course, we have the axes exactly backwards, and it's just the way economics does things. So you're not going to change anything. I'm not going to change anything. And so an example is in these supply and demand diagrams. When we talk about, and we'll get to this, and we'll be sick of this in no time. So don't worry that you're not going to. I'm not trying to demonstrate the law of demand and law of supply to you. I'm just trying to show you that the graphing conventions are unusual. So in a little demand curve here, we have the price of goods on the y-axis, and we have the quantity demanded on the bottom. And the way economists do this, the price change is the cause, and the quantity demanded is the effect. Exactly backwards of what we do in other conventional graphing. And then likewise, when we do the supply curve, we have the price change on the y-axis. This is the cause, and then the effect, change in quantity supplied at the bottom. Anyway, so that's one unusual convention that economists use, and I'm just bringing it to your attention because we're going to use this all the time, especially in this course. Well, in this course and macro, for those of you going to macro. So there's some unusual graphing conventions, and then the other quirk that I want to bring to your attention that we'll get to in a couple of weeks here is the way economists calculate percentage. Normally when we calculate percentage, we take the end value, the end value minus the beginning value, divide by the beginning value, multiplied by 100. That's the way we normally calculate, and that gives us percentage. That's the way we normally calculate percentages. But in economics, in one particular example, when we're calculating elasticities, and don't worry, we'll get to this in chapter 6, I believe, chapter 4, chapter 6, they calculate elasticities in a different manner. And instead of taking the ending value minus the beginning value, they instead take an average of the beginning and ending value. Or they, is that what they do? What do they do here? The denominator is based on an average of the values, and the numerator is based on the difference. Okay, so the numerator is the same. It's the ending value. It's ending minus beginning. But instead of the denominator being the beginning value, they take an average of the two values. Why they do this, we'll get to the explanation later on, times 100. We'll get to the explanation later on, but I'm just bringing to your attention that economists calculate percentages in an unusual fashion when we're talking about elasticities of supply and demand. Anyways, we'll get to all that, so don't worry about it. I'm just giving you a heads up in case you think normally. And okay, so the final little section for the agenda here is how the course and the book are organized. Okay, this is straightforward. Let me just go through this stuff, and then we'll be done and then I'll go on to chapter 1. Oops. Okay, so there's really 3 sections of the book. One is kind of the introductory chapters. We have some introductory chapters, chapters 1, chapter 2. And then we look at the economic perspective of individual people and the so-called firm. Individual people deals with chapters 4 and 5. Oops, 4, 5. Oh, okay, 4, 5, and where's chapter 5? Anyways, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And Theory of the Firm, chapter 8. And then in the second part of the course, we look at these 4 types of industries. Economists classify industries in a different way than we do in normal life. You know, normally we talk about the restaurant industry and the manufacturing industry and the automobile industry and the school industry and the clothing industry and retailing industry and wholesaling and manufacturing and all that kind of stuff. Well, economists have their own classifications of industries, and economists come up with these 4 different types of industries. One is so-called perfect competition, perfectly competitive industries. Second is so-called monopoly. Third is so-called oligopoly, and fourth is so-called monopolistic competition. So there's some different economic aspects of these 4 types of industries. So we look at that in chapters 9 through 11. And then the final section of the course and the final section of the book deals with the application of microeconomics to some social issues. So we look at the application of microeconomics to government regulation and competition policy, labor market economics, income and poverty economics, and then environmental economics. And then that'll be it for the course. And then in the next course, in macro, we deal with macro. Anyways, we'll talk about macro a little bit later. Okay, so that's it for today's agenda. So I'm going to shut down this little video. I'm going to try to post it, and then I'll come back later this afternoon and do a little video for chapter 1, and then I'll try to do one for chapter 2. Again, I'm going to try to do these in videos that I can upload to YouTube. If it doesn't work, I may have to go to Collaborate, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we'll talk to you later. So I have to turn this off.